and thank you to all the interpreters. I am known for talking fast, so I will try. I have notes on my all over to try to be cognizant for the interpreters. So let's see how well I do. My name is Pat Chamberlain, and I am a former employee of the Illinois Resource Center. I have retired as Director of Early Learners from the fabulous U46 school system in Elgin. And since I have retired, I've had the opportunity to do a lot of work around the state, looking at dual language and bilingual in TPI programs for our youngest learners. So today we're really going to focus on this birth to 5 group of kids and the implications it has for older children as well. I also want to take a moment to talk a little bit about another role that I have had in my retirement, which is being part of the Governor Pritzker's funding commission on equitable early childhood education. So I want to give you a little bit of information about that, but mostly we're going to talk about your child's brain. So about in April, I had the opportunity to facilitate a conversation with Dr. Patricia Kuehl, who is out of the University of Washington. And she did a talk for the faculty of higher education across the state of Illinois. And her research, it has been looking at brain development for young children, and she focuses on dual language learners, kids learning 2 or more languages at one time. She has done groundbreaking research, and it is informing policy across the United States, including at the federal level. So what I'm going to do today is take a few of the most important points, I think, that are fascinating to me, and talk about what you do at home every day that helps build your child's brain. And I think it's really important for us to remember that 90% of your child's brain is developed before age 5. This is huge. What we do in early childhood, how you interact with your children from birth to 5 years old really has a powerful impact on what happens to the rest of their lives. And you have the power to do that. And you have the power to do that we're going to look at 3 very easy ways and things that you do all the time, but tweaking them and making them more intentional will make them even more powerful than they already are. They are, first, to talk to your child, second, to play with your child, and third, to read with your child. So let's get started. So I think this is an important piece of Dr. Kuehl's research and second language acquisition research across the board substantiates this, that from birth to 7 is when your brain is wired to learn a new language. Absolutely so in an ultimate state of readiness. And so, when a 1-year-old goes from saying 5 words to a 2-year-old knowing hundreds and hundreds of words, how fast children learn their language. Unfortunately, for those of us on the other end of the spectrum, that 17 to 39, or in my case, times 2 almost, that our language learning isn't as adept. That doesn't mean that we can't learn other languages. It doesn't mean that we can't continue learning. And in fact, we know that it is very important to continue learning, to keep older brains moving and functioning well. We know, though, that when we learn 2 languages at this critical period, there are some brain structures that are developed that look like they are protective against Alzheimer's, the development of Alzheimer's. So while there are many beautiful reasons to become bilingual, in my retirement age, I really am rooting hard for that Alzheimer's one. So what we do, birth to 5, is critically important. And this is a little graphic that I love to show because it looks at when babies are born, what's happening in their brain. They have all these bits of information that are floating around, they're taking them in as they put things in their mouth, as they wiggle their toes, as they look at pictures, as they listen to language. All of these things, they're taking in information, but they don't necessarily know what to do with that. Once kids start around, putting connections together, putting ideas together, they start connecting ideas, one idea to another idea, right? So you're going to hear a lot about my granddaughter who is 2. So once she figured out, for example, that I had a book at my house that she liked, and when her mom called me at FaceTime, she would tell me, read Mitt book, because she made a connection to me, my house, and the book that she wanted me to read. So they're starting to make these connections and pruning, what we call, so organizing all of these bits of information. And then when we get older, when our kids are older and in elementary and secondary school, the connections deepen and get more complex. And the more complex these connections, the more successful children and adults are at being well put together adults, being able to reason, manage their emotions, manage their behaviors, understand new content and learn, read, write, all of those things. That's what we want on that far right side. So how do you do that then? The first way that you do that is to talk to your child. And our keynote speaker, I think, used a really good example about this notion of speaking to your children in what language and all of that. We have to really think about the importance of high quality language and interaction. And if you're bilingual and you speak 2 languages, well, you can think about how to do that within the context of your family. Some families choose to do one parent does one language, another parent does another language. Some people do manage to do certain tasks in one language or another. Other folks are very bilingual and they are using 2 languages. All of those work. Everything where we're inputting language and you're providing good language stimulation, all of that is good. And so it doesn't have to be highly academic talk, but it does have to be highly interactive talk. So I want to show you a little clip of some of Dr. Kuhl's research around a program that her research started in Seattle with Mandarin speakers and has moved on to, she's doing some research in Spain for Spanish speakers and in the Southwest. But I want to show you a little clip of sort of her first trial intervention or her first research experiment to show what it looks like and how she got her results.
During this period to Mandarin, it was like 2 months expose American babies during this period to Mandarin. It was like having Mandarin relatives come and visit for a month and move into your house and talk to the babies for 12 sessions. Here's what it looked like in the laboratory.
发生了什么事情哦？小小熊七七在这里，一个绿色的圈圈，绿色的圈圈，绿色的圈圈，转一下，转一圈，嘿，一圈，再一次哦，转一，二，三。
So what have we done?
So what they did this experiment for 12 weeks with English babies and taught them Mandarin. And after 12 weeks, they put them in this machine that looks like a big old-fashioned hair dryer and measured what was happening in the babies' brains. And the babies, they found out that between the ages of 6 months and 10 to 12 months, the children started differentiating their language skills. They could make when they were 6 months old, they could make all the sounds in all the languages of the world. Dr. Kuhl calls them citizens of the world. After this Mandarin exposure, or I shouldn't say, then the children were measured again. The Taiwanese infants understood Taiwanese sounds and the American infants did not understand the sounds. Then they did this intervention and they found that the American infants actually learned the Mandarin sounds when it was introduced in this critical period between 6 months and 10 months. So children master the sounds of their language by being exposed to the sounds of their home language and can learn another language quite easily during that time. And it starts from birth. Lots of people think it doesn't matter what you're talking about or what language you're using when you're talking with your children when they're infants, but it makes a huge amount of difference because children are taking the statistics of what you are talking about and making all of those neurological connections in their brains to understand that this is an English sound or this is a Taiwanese, Spanish, Gujarati, whatever other language we're talking about. So they are taking statistics all the time. One of the most important things, in addition to the amount of language children are hearing, so you want to bathe your children in language from birth. You want to talk to them and talk to them and talk to them, no matter about what. Just tell them what you're doing, that you're folding clothes, that you're making dinner, that you see a train outside. Whatever comes to your mind is good information to share. But there's also one other piece of the way that you communicate, which has to do with using something called parentese. And all of you that have had babies will know what this is, even if you might not, even if you might not know this word, you'll know what parentese sounds like. I just want to show you a little clip of what that sounds like. Oh no, maybe I'm not. Oh, 405.
We talk to kids, first in English and then in Japanese.
I love your big blue eyes. So pretty and nice. うわー、大きな茶色いお目目。そして綺麗な黒い髪。
During the
So you know, I'm sure that you have used parent ease when you talk to your children, when you talk in that sing-songy voice where, oh, you are so cute. I call my granddaughter, we call her Chetes because she has great big cheeks. And so we go, oh, Chetes, how exciting to see you. So we have exaggerated tones in our voice. We're slower. We're working on elongating sounds. That baby, some people call that baby talk, and some people think that's a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It is one of the most powerful tools you have as a parent to make sure your child is able to take the statistics in order to understand the sounds of your language and the sounds of English if you're using two languages at home, and eventually the words and the grammar of that. So being able to use parent ease and doing turn taking actually has been shown in Dr. Kuhl's research to develop the part of the brain that connects the left and the right hemisphere of your brain. And that connection becomes stronger when you take turns and you use parent ease. And if that connection is really strong, they have found that the child does better in reading and comprehension of reading when they're in 3rd through 5th grade. So you are changing the way your child's brain is constructed. You're making those connections. You're building strength, a muscle in your child's brain when you are talking and using parent ease. Now, one other thing that I want to mention to you is that they also did a control study on this, to see if the person that was teaching the Mandarin was actually the social person was important, or if kids can learn from a screen or just from audio. And you know what we found out? I bet you're not going to be surprised. Dr. Kuhl talks about her research assistant said, oh, the kids are going to love the screen. They're going to learn Mandarin like crazy. And they found out, nope. The child's interaction with the screen showed absolutely no new learning in the brain of Mandarin sounds. Nor did an audio, just listening to the story or the activities that the teacher was doing or the adult was using, no new learning. So what did produce new learning was social interaction. And I tell this story that during the pandemic, of course, many of you all experienced the same thing I did, where I couldn't see my granddaughter, and it was as painful as you could imagine for all of us. And so she was just one, and I was dead set against screen time, because I had seen this research. And we started doing FaceTime and had reciprocal social interaction on FaceTime. That social dimension is what distinguishes putting a child in front of a screen, playing a game where there's no social interaction, and having a person take turns and respond. That kind of interaction is appropriate for young children, especially 1, 2, 3-year-olds. Sitting a child in front of a screen to watch passively absolutely does not produce good opportunities for language learning. It didn't change the children's brains in the way that the social interaction that we saw on that other slide changed children's brains. So make sure that you're talking to your child. If they're little itty bitties, use parent ease and be sure that you're animated. and make sure that it starts from infancy when you're changing the diaper and you're saying, "Oh, you have a wet diaper?" And they say, "Goo." And you go, "Oh my gosh, you're right. You have a wet diaper." And they laugh or they smile. That interaction is building your child's brain. And limit the amount of screen time children have when they're just passively watching a screen. There's also some research anecdotally that doesn't have anything to do with this presentation, but I'll throw it in also about eye development, that it's very, that they're finding some long-term effects of too much screen time on young eyes that haven't learned how to focus yet. So that's another conversation, but I'll throw it in just for your information. Okay, the second easy thing to do is to play. Play is what is called the leading activity for learning for young children. Sometimes we think play is just something children do on their own, that it's not important, that it's not valued, that it is just something kids do and it's not real learning. But in fact, it is real learning. And it is real learning even more powerfully, again, when it is a social interaction with an adult and a child, or a child and a child. The interaction becomes more complex, develops more brain connections, the more it is developed into complex play schemes. And adults are key in making this happen. That's what teachers do in preschool and in daycare. They are interacting with your child to set up learning opportunities and to scaffold, to help them learn more based on their adult knowledge and following the lead of the child. This is a really important thing. Sometimes as parents, we want to jump in and direct the play. We need to follow their play, not direct the play. If it is adult directed, it is not play. If it's child directed, it is classified as play. So I'm just curious if you want to write in the chat, which types of play did you like most when you were a child? Physical play? Did you like to run around, jump, fight, wrestle? I have 4 brothers. Everybody wrestled in my house. Did you like dramatic or pretend play? Did you like to dress up? Were you the teacher? I grew up in a Catholic church, and we played mass. We played church as one of our dramatic play schemes. Did you like to build things? Were you the Lego person? Were you the person that built forts? Were you the person that loved to collect boxes and make pretend trains out of those? Or were you the kind of person that liked the games with rules? Which ones did you like? Just curious. Oh, we've got a lot of, oh, hi, Annette. We have a lot of dramatic play people. Interesting. So whatever your kind of play is probably the leading activity that you interact with your child using that type of play, right? If you like to physically play, you're probably the person that's really into physically playing. It's fabulous. Whatever way that you play is building your child's brain. But I want to underscore one particular one that has even more power than the rest to develop what we call executive functioning. And that is controlling your thinking and controlling your actions in your brain. And that is dramatic play. Dramatic pretend play is what I have been working with teachers for the last 10 years to help them develop more complicated play. So when you think about, again, it's all about my granddaughter today, right? So when you think about my granddaughter, she's 2, and her play schemes in the kitchen are she takes out a plate, she puts food on it, she gives me a bite, and she puts it away. So she has 3 steps in her play scheme. With a 5-year-old, I've played panaderia, bakery, a bakery in a preschool class where the children are making all different kinds of pastry. I did this in Spanish, so sorry, I'm not going so fast from English to Spanish. They're making pastry, and they make them with all kinds of sprinkles and different colors. And then they put on their hat, and they come over and they sell them to me. And then we go and we have coffee, and we have a little conversation about what's going on. And then I go back and clean up. So you can see how play develops from a very simple stage dramatically for a 2-year-old into a very much more complex stage at 5. It's interesting also that play and computer interactive play for older children also takes on some of the characteristics of this dramatic or pretend play. I did a talk with a group of students, college students in Bogota, Colombia, and talking about pretend play or pretending imaginary worlds and their within their social setting, and how much they use these games, online games, to learn English. It's an incredibly powerful tool for learning language as well as developing these higher level thinking skills for children. And so thinking about what does that look like, you want to play your favorite kind of play with your child, because that's where you're going to have the most joy. But also make sure that other kinds of play happens in your house. None of this takes fancy stuff. Running around, kicking a ball doesn't take stuff. Using dramatic play, you do not have to buy all those fancy outfits and clothes and all of that. Throw an old shirt of yours or an old purse that you have. That's all it takes. And in fact, the less stuff you give and the more children can use it on their own, the better it is for developing imagination. And when children have higher levels of imagination and creativity, that translates in the brain. The parts of their brain that are getting stronger are the very same parts of the brain that help children understand an idea when they're reading it in a book. It's the idea to think abstractly. And so make sure that you play your favorite, and make sure that they have some other, somebody else is helping them play those, or that you learn how to get into those as well. Here are some examples from some classrooms that I've been in. This top one is with all those bricks. This is a Zamboni, which is a machine that makes ice for a hockey rink. The kids knew about this, they were studying it, and they thought they wanted to build this. So all it took was boxes and tape. Here's the store, here's the bakery that I went to. I mentioned, you can see they made gingerbread man. They have all kinds of different colors of materials here. And this one is, they were playing mechanics, and these 2 girls were fixing the car. And so it is really important that you let children play what they know, and what they know comes from their experiences living with you. If you are an incredible musician, they will play that. If you've got dancing going on in your house, you'll see kids playing that. If in this case, kids were mechanics. I had one classroom where a bunch of the families had people that worked for the airport, so they got into playing that. Yeah, all kinds of family traditions. What does a birthday look like? What does a holiday celebration? Letting children play what they know, and you helping them develop language by talking, by taking turns, by having roles, by giving them boxes and giving them markers and giving them tape, is all it takes to build strong brains that will allow children to be successful in school, but also as importantly as in life. And last of our big three is to read. And for those of you who have children in school, you know this really well. Read, and read, right? And I want to underscore the importance of what I mean by read. By reading, I am not saying you must pick up a book and say all the words. That's one way to read a book, but that is not the only way to read a book. I was talking to my niece the other day who has a 1-year-old, very active little boy, and she says, he's not letting me read the books. And I said, well, what are you doing? And she said, well, we sit down and I just read him a page and he won't pay attention. No, he won't, because he's 1 year old. You don't expect him to do that now. If you can get a 1-year-old to look at the book and look at a page and turn a page, that's great. That's reading at a 1-year-old level. At a 3-year-old level, children certainly can pick up books and hopefully turn the pages themselves and look at the pictures. And if you have, or their other adults have read books or told stories about the pictures in the books enough times, they will use that language and make up their own stories. So you do not have to read pages of the pages on the book. You can talk about whatever you see on the book and connect it to what you know in your life experience. That's what gives it power. So every grandma in any book that I read is called Mimi for my granddaughter, because that's her universe. Mimi is what she knows as grandma. So read pictures. You can improvise and shorten the stories, the words on the page, and you can read the stories as is, right? My granddaughter right now is obsessed with a new book that I got that's called Pedro el Valiente. She knows it's in Spanish, and she picks it up and she loves this book because, this is my hypothesis, because she loves anything dramatic. It's got a wolf with hot fire coming out of its mouth. It is a great book if you are Spanish speakers, Pedro el Valiente. But I want you to think about all the things that happen when you sit with your child and look at books. When you're looking at books with a 2-month-old or a 10-year-old, you're building this connection of love and enjoyment between a cherished adult and a cherished child. That feeling never goes away. When you have developed in their brains this emotional connection to reading, which is really powerful. Children learn how to manipulate books. They learn how to attend and pay attention. They learn how to understand story setting. So I want to show you a little short clip of my precious little granddaughter. She's 1.5 years old during this, and she got a new book for Christmas. And it's about it's called Gossie, the Gosling, and it's about this little goose, baby goose, that loses her red boots. and somebody actually takes the red boot, and Ghazi finds the person with the red boot, and in the end they share the red boot. So that's the story. But I want you to look at this and see if you can see what this 1-year-old already knows about books. Let's see, hopefully this works. They're all gone. Where are they? Can she find them? Keep looking. Look more. Did she find her boots? Look. Turn the page. Turn the page and see if they can find more. No boots. Ghazi has no boots, but her friend Gertie has the boots. That's share, right? Are they sharing? So you can see that a 1-year-old is developing. Think about what this is doing in her brain. She's making all these connections, not just random bits of information, but connections in the brain that to find out more, you turn pages. She was learning words that were important to her, and I was trying to help her, right? She had only read that book a couple times. So she learned boots. She knew she had boots herself. You could see that she had, she said boots. You could see that she was remembering that she lost, that there was a story plot, that she lost the boots. You could see she had emotions, right? About what happened when you lose something and how joyful it was when she found something. She was developing her brain's muscle for attention. As I mentioned, she loves drama. So any story with something bad that goes wrong, she's in love. And she even understands at this point, at 2, she even understands that there are some difference between pictures and words, because she has read so many books, because she's my grandkid, right? She can't help it. Grandma Mimi reads a lot of books. And so all of these things are changing the way her brain works and the way she approaches text and the way she learns new information. So reading will help develop language skills. In whatever language you read your child, this happens in. The stronger your language is, the stronger the connections that you're making in your baby's brain. And one last comment before we wrap up here has to do with cognitive flexibility. Building your bilingual baby's brain gives them increased cognitive flexibility. So on this, I don't know if you see the old woman or the young woman. You can put that in the chat. The old woman has a mouth down here. The young woman has a nose up here. If you can see either one. People with strong bilingual brains have increased cognitive flexibility. They're better problem solvers. They know more language. They are more creative in their thinking. So this is the gift. If you can talk, play, and read to your child, that you are giving. You are changing the way a child's brain looks. And I want to end with just a little sort of infomercial around the governor's funding commission. I was a member of the Governor's Funding Commission, and we have, the Governor's Funding Commission has made 3 big recommendations about early childhood. One, to try to develop one system. 2, there's my grandchild right now. I'm almost done, baby. 2 is to, one is to put more money into the early childhood system. 2 is to develop one system that makes it easier to get access to early childhood information and services from birth through 5 years old. And the third one is to change the way we make payments in the system. There are 2 important parts that I hope you would pay attention to. And if you go to the governor's website, you can keep track of this. The funding commission is over. There's another group that is starting to plan, and this planning group will study more about early English learners and more about children with disabilities. We want to make sure that this work continues and the focus continues on both of those parts, because we know that how our children's brains are developing will be impacted by the decisions and the support that the governor and his group can give to early childhood programs, to school systems, and to families. And so I encourage you to take a look at the Governor's Funding Commission site and keep track of what's happening. Sort of it is an interim right now, but I want to leave you with this last word. Sorry about that. The way we talk to our children becomes their inner voice. And with that, I want to thank you for all that you do, and thank you for raising the next generation. Come on in and I will show you. I will show you why.
Very upset that she cannot see me.
Come here. Come here. Let me
Is that
say.
what you wanted?
See, this is the book that she likes to read. Say hi to everybody. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the conference. Bye-bye.